strategy that brings about peaceful communities, neighborhoods, and schools. And speaking of schools, schools are a central key, needless to say, in ending youth violence. A healthy school climate provides a safe and nurturing place where young people can learn and thrive. And unfortunately, bullying, whether physical, verbal, or in the anonymous and ubiquitous internet world that we now all live in, it's become an epidemic in our schools. It shatters people's sense of safety and security. Bullying has devastating and lasting effects on young people. With the advent of the internet, and I have teenage boys, I wish the internet didn't exist. With the advent of the internet, social media, and the 24/7 pervasiveness of the cyber world in our lives, no longer can a young person escape the bullying. They can't escape the bully. They can't escape the tormentor. The anonymity of the internet also allows for a level of cruelty far beyond what somebody might say or do in person, as we've probably all seen. Bullying can lead to poor academic performance, depression, substance abuse, and suicide. Students who are fearful have difficulty learning, and those who feel unsafe often choose to stay home rather than going to school. In turn, absenteeism, truancy, and school failures are strong predictors of criminal behavior. The people that I see in the courtroom often have fallen into this category. Young people who witness frequent bullying, the witnesses to bullying, are also at an increased risk for alcohol and drug use, depression, and anxiety. And a very small number of bullied children also might retaliate through extremely violent measures. In 12 of 15 school shooting cases in the 1990s, the shooters themselves had a history of being bullied. We here in the U.S. Attorney's Office in my community, and I know that you all as well, do heart-wrenching stories about bullying, such as the young girls that we've read about recently from Saratoga and Los Gatos, who both committed suicide after having pictures of themselves circulated on the internet. At our Bullying Prevention Summit last September, the Los Gatos girl's father bravely shared his story with all the Bay Area leaders that were at that summit. And believe me, there was not a dry eye in the house after listening to him. He told his daughter's story because he wanted it to matter. He lost his daughter, but he wanted his daughter's death to matter. He wanted to help play a role in ending bullying and cruelty in the schools, and he doesn't want it to happen to anybody else. Violent bullying is an issue in many schools as well, where kids that are perceived as weak or awkward or different are targeted for verbal abuse or physical abuse. Kids will be kids, or boys will be boys, can no longer be the acceptable responses to bullying. The Lucille Packard Foundation has been tracking the issue of school bullying, school climate and bullying in California, which unfortunately they found is occurring at an alarming rate. 42% of 7th graders reported at least one incidence of bullying or harassment at school in California, 42%. When you look at the county-by-county statistics in the Bay Area, San Mateo had the highest percentage at 46%, followed by San Francisco, Contra Costa, and Marin counties, all at 44%, Alameda County at 43%, and Santa Clara County at 39%. Startling and disturbing statistics. That's 7th grade. They look like little kids, and that's what they're dealing with. As in most communities, bullying is an issue, unfortunately, in Antioch. The most recent information from the California Healthy Kids surveys shows that 47% of 7th graders here, 40% of 9th graders here, and 28% of 11th graders reported being bullied or harassed at school at least once in the past year. And about 1 in 4 9th graders reported being cyberbullied by other students at least once in the last year. That's in Antioch Unified. Now again, it might seem odd that the United States Attorney would be engaged in the issue of bullying. It's not my bread and butter. My bread and butter is prosecuting cases. The issue of bullying, you might think, is far afield from gang cases, major gang cases, drug takedowns, big white collar crime cases, terrorism investigations. We do computer hacking cases, theft of trade secret cases, and we enforce all of the federal criminal laws. Bullying is not one of them. But as I have learned and I know that Keith and Iris have learned, one of the things that goes along with my job as the United States Attorney is that I have what we call the power of convening. It's great. One of the great things about being the U.S. Attorney is people return my phone calls. And people will come to meetings, and I know Keith knows this, and Iris knows this, and many of the people in the rooms know this. So I've been able to use my power of convening, like Iris and Keith and others here have, to bring local, state, and federal entities together with the community to address the issue of bullying that we all find so disturbing. Bullying is a pressing issue for all of us, given its devastating and often tragic consequences for the people here, and the role that it plays in juvenile delinquency and youth violence, and ultimately the role it plays in the people that I see in federal court every day. In September of last year, my office gathered educators, media, law enforcement, community leaders, community-based organizations, service providers, the medical community, and political leaders in the Bay Area for what we call the Bay Area Bullying Prevention Summit. Tom Perez, who's the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights at the Department of Justice, he's been nominated as our Labor Secretary, so he's going through that process. He came out here from DC and he opened the summit for us. And then he was joined by Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom and Assistant Secretary of Education Ruslan Ali for a really in-depth and lively discussion of the federal government's work in the area of bullying, which I can tell you, and I'm proud to say, has been substantial. The Civil Rights Division at the Department of Justice has intervened on several occasions in the country to eradicate the bullying of LGBTQ youth in our high schools. The White House launched a website, stopbullying.gov, which I commend to all of you, to promote bullying prevention. And the White House also created a historic partnership between 3 federal agencies, Justice, Education, and HHS, Health and Human Services, to address bullying. President Obama and this administration asked these 3 federal agencies to work together to develop strategies and new approaches. We have worked with CNN and the Cartoon Network and social media giants that are in our district, like Facebook, to develop bullying prevention programs and campaigns. The administration also supported the Safe Schools Improvement Act and applauded when Congressman Mike Honda, formed the Bipartisan Anti-Bullying Caucus in Congress last year. The Bay Area Bullying Prevention Summit, hosted by my office in partnership with Mayor Ed Lee of San Francisco and State Superintendent of Education Tom Torlakson, brought together really the very best practices in the Bay Area on the subject of bullying prevention. If there's one thing that we learned as we came together, it's that bullying stops through the influence of peers. We need to encourage kids and teens to talk to kids and teens. They're the key to this. We need to work with them and encourage them in doing that. One significant highlight of our summit in the Bay Area was our partnership with director Lee Hirsch to screen his documentary film, Bully, for more than 17,000 middle school and high school kids in the Bay Area from San Francisco, Oakland, and San Mateo County. If you haven't seen it, this documentary is completely gripping and incredibly disturbing, and it contains very graphic scenes of physical and emotional abuse of children, but it also sparked a national discussion on this issue. We were fortunate through the summit to get to know Lee Hirsch, the director, and he tells his own story. He says he did this film because he himself was bullied as a child, and he felt like he wanted to do something about this issue. So he's very moving, and we were grateful to become a part of his movement. His intention is to screen this movie for 1 million kids in the United States. And the last I checked his website, it was close to 200,000, I think, around the country. He'll go into communities, screen the film, he'll talk to audiences, he'll tell his own story. He's incredibly effective, and one of the best parts of the summit was forming a partnership with Lee Hirsch and working with him. At the summit, all the people that came together, and there were about 250 leaders, as I said, from around the Bay Area, we learned an incredible amount from each other that we can then go back to our own communities and share. And I'll share some of those with you while we're here today. Marin County has a school program called No One Eats Alone to address the issue of social isolation, which I thought was such a great idea. I was a Navy brat. My dad was a Navy pilot for 30 years. I never went to a school for more than a year, never. And so this one resonated with me. No one eats alone. I still remember those first days at every school I went to. After its students watched the bully documentary, the San Francisco Unified School District had each school's leaders go back and create and implement their own school climate plan, so that the students created the plan and they implemented the plan and they owned the plan and they made it happen. The Oakland Unified School District embraced the curriculum called Community Matters, which develops youth leaders as ambassadors at the schools in peer-based bullying prevention efforts. San Mateo County pays particular attention to physically and developmentally challenged students through a new plan there called Respect 24/7. In addition, a new group was formed as a result of the summit to map and collect all of the best practices in the Bay Area, which of course will be helpful because it will be shared with everybody in the Bay Area and everybody can learn from everyone else. We all know that we can't legislate or impose on anybody decency, unfortunately. Unfortunately, we can't do this. We can't impose or legislate decency, respect, civility, empathy, or kindness. But we can teach it, and we can model it, and I know everybody in this room does that every single day. And we can teach and encourage our young people to not be bystanders, to speak up, to be upstanders, and not let bullying affect them or their friends or their peers or anyone else in their schools and their communities. I am really pleased to use the power of convening that I got with this job as a catalyst in the Bay Area to help work in this issue of bullying prevention. This is my community. Some people have the misimpression that the U.S. Attorney comes from Washington. This is my community. As Keith said, I went to UC San Diego undergrad and Berkeley Law. This is my community. These are our kids. I have my own teenagers, and I want to do my part in preventing bullying and working to make sure working to try to eradicate this awful scourge from our schools. I know that Keith and Iris are absolutely a part of that. I know everybody in this room is absolutely a part of that. I am honored to be in your presence. I am honored to work with all of you. Thank you for inviting me here today. I'm so looking forward to listening to the panel and learning from them.